Going from you know what you know to you don't know all that you know should take about 10,000 hours. How do you accelerate that? How do you speed that period up?
Well, that piece of research by Malcolm Gladwell called the 10,000 hour rule, you need 10,000 hours to master your craft. That has one glaring omission, and that is how much you have natural ability to do it, how much you enjoy it, how much you like the people that you work with, how much of your emotion is involved in achieving that goal. And if that's the case, you'll find you can be much more successful in 1/10 the time that Malcolm Gladwell predicts. It depends upon how much you love your work.
Welcome to the Brian Tracy Experience. I'm here with my dad, Brian Tracy, and normally we're joined by Michael and Christina. Christina will be joining us late. Michael's not here today. Get started and talk about leadership. So, Dad, leadership, you started your career in sales, and after you proved yourself in sales, you evolved into a leadership role. Do you
Yes.
remember the first role where you transitioned from straight selling into managing people?
Well, what happened was I was doing so well at selling, I developed a sales system. The system is now the most popular sales system in the world. It's in 39 languages, and it just is so effective at selling. So I struggled and struggled and struggled, and I finally began to make sales. And then they said, whatever you're smoking, you should share it with the other salespeople because they need this instruction. So I began to teach other people what I had learned and then go out with them on calls to meet with customers. And they began to become successful. And then they told their friends who came to me. Within 2 years after I began to recruit people, I had 95 people working for me in 6 countries, and I was getting a commission override on every sale they made. And I earned more money than I ever dreamed possible. Here's a couple of interesting points. Is the most important word in leadership is the word results. 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 Is you always ask the question, what results are expected of me? And the job of the leader is to get results in excess of what a non-leader would get. That your pay, your promotion, your advancement, your success is all based on getting results. So you ask, what results are expected of me? And then of all the results, what is the most important result that I can get that will make the biggest difference in my career? That's the big question for work life. And
Sure.
people who fail to answer that fall into the bottom 80%, and they worry about money all the time.
But when we're talking about qualities of a person, some people are successful in sales and they don't want to manage people and they're happy where they are.
Yes.
But what are some of the qualities of a person that really help them excel as a leader when it comes to managing other people? What would you say the top three would be?
Well, I'd say the number one quality is that they accept 100% responsibility for their work and for results. When you look for a leader, when you look to put a person in charge of the work, whatever it happens to be, you're looking for someone who will take it and do something with it and do it right away.
You're not just accepting failure for your responsibility. You're willing to accept failure for everybody underneath you. That's
Yes,
what a leader is.
yes. And so if you want to be successful financially, you have to move up. And you move up by accepting responsibility.
We do have one good question about sales, which is how have you seen sales techniques change over the last 10 or 20 years?
Well, the most important thing in sales is to be authentic, is to be honest, to be genuine, and genuinely look for ways to help the customer with your product or service. To improvement in their situation should be greater than the cost is to see yourself as a professional helper. And a good leader is in sales is a helper. They help other people achieve their goals with their product or service. So one of the things you ask when you start off is, what is the specific benefit or what are the benefits that my customer gets from using my product or service that they cannot get anywhere else? And that's your big question. And then you say, of all the customers out there, who are the customers who can most benefit from this result or this improvement? And then you seek them out. And you can even open your conversation by saying, we have a service that will enable you to do this faster and with greater surety than ever before. Would you be interested in learning a little bit more about it? Now, at the end of the day, to be a leader as a salesperson, you could be a leader with no followers. Everybody should be like him or her. They come in, they're well organized, they do their job, they bring in the bacon, if you like, they bring in the sales. They are a role model to other people. And that's another great question that you need to ask yourself is what kind of a company would my company be if everybody in it was just like me? What kind of a company would everybody be? And then what you do is you put the spurs to yourself. You grade yourself at a very high scale, and you can always be better. You can always be better, and ask for other people's advice. I want to be the very best person in this job. What one change would you recommend that I make? And instead of asking for a list of changes, ask for one.
Right. When you're working in the sales industry, how do you handle other sales professionals who might be jealous or who might be trying to sabotage you in that industry? What would you say? What advice would you give somebody who's dealing with some of those other personalities that could be a little bit difficult?
Well, that's going to be normal. You have to think about sales sort of like as athletic competition. You are concerned about your competitors, but you're more concerned about winning. And so, therefore, if other people are jealous of you, that is their problem. It's not your problem. Your job is to get results, get results, get results. Accept responsibility. I am responsible for getting results.
Yeah, the most successful sales professionals, you never see them in the office unless they're closing a deal, signing some contracts.
Yeah, you come in early, first thing in the morning, pick up any information that you need, and then get out.
One good question we have here from Elmer Dad is how can you justify teaching success when you don't feel like you're made it yourself? So when you haven't demonstrated that you're successful yet, how can you teach it? What advice would you give to somebody in that situation?
Well, you just have to practice the success principles that you know over and over, a little bit better, a little bit better. At the beginning, it's very discouraging. At the beginning, you do not know how to do excellent work. And so therefore you fail and you get turned down and you get rejected and everything else. And this is what is called the testing time. This is where you are tested in life. Is are you going to continue to persist and keep moving forward and become successful, or are you just going to collapse? And so therefore make a decision in advance, as we've talked about before, is I will never give up. I never give up. I'll just keep practicing over and over. And it takes a certain number of new calls on new prospects for you to develop your skills. And it may be 50, it may be 100, it may be 300. I know top salesman for a national company. He didn't make his first sale until after his 300th call. But after that, the next one was easier, and the next one was easier, and so on. If you are not hard on yourself, nobody will be hard on you. But if you're hard on yourself, then you're going to be a big success. That means you start a little earlier, you work a little harder, you stay a little later, you keep raising the standards on yourself.
Yeah, look at who's doing the best in your office and act as if you're that person.
Yes.
Do the things that they're doing, even if you're not getting the same results, because the results will flow behind those behaviors. One other question about leadership qualities. You talk about someone mentioned eat that frog. How would you relate some of the material in Eat That Frog, which is really about sort of time management and procrastination with leadership qualities?
Want to look at your work. One of the questions I would ask my audience is I say, how many people here work on straight commission? Maybe 10 or 15% would raise their hands. I say, obviously I didn't recite that question correctly. Let me try it again. How many people here work on straight commission? In that you are paid in proportion to the results that you get. No results, no pay. High results, high pay. What results do you get that your bosses, senior people value so much that they will pay you and pay you well and pay you more and pay you again? And everybody starts at the bottom. So you don't coast. What you do is you just keep raising the standard on yourself, raising the bar. And then once you achieve it, raise the bar again. And you are responsible. Each individual is responsible. So number one, accept responsibility, no excuses. Number two, set a goal to double your income in the next 6 to 12 months. Set as a goal. Determine how much did I earn in the last year? How much would that be if it was double? And write it down. I earned this amount of money by December 31st of this year. Write it down. And you'll be astonished at what starts to happen to your sales. And then number three is continuous learning. So always learning more, reading and listening, reading sales magazines, attending seminars, listening to audio programs. Keep feeding your mind. Almost imagine that the ideas are like mental protein, mental vitamins, mental energizers. So whatever you're learning, you're getting better and better. So the more time you spend in learning, the less time it takes you to earn a certain amount of money.
It's funny, Dad, you talk about how you'll never forget where you were when you learned about the 80-20 principle. Well, I'll never forget where I was when you taught me about the levels of awareness. You remember that in Italy when you were talking about, level one being you don't know what you don't know, which is unconscious incompetence. And then you move through the list to get to the point where you are, where you can bring people up. Can you talk a little bit about that? Or I can talk a little bit about that if you want, but that was a game changer for me.
One of the things in every field, you start off as an unconscious incompetent. That means you don't know what you don't know. And so therefore you really struggle at the beginning because you don't even know how to self-correct. Second is you become a conscious incompetent. You know that you don't know it, but at least you know that you need to learn how to recruit, how to prospect, how to make presentations, and so on. The third part is the conscious competence. And then finally, there's when you become completely competent, that means that you can sell easily and well to almost any qualified prospect. But you have to go through those phases. And so the harder you work, like if you want to become fit as an athlete, the harder you work on a day-to-day basis, the faster you will become fit and healthy and trim. It's the same thing. And when you read about other successful people, it soaks into you and you start to think, I could do that. I could be like that. I could make that kind of a decision. I could persevere in the face of adversity. So what you do is you begin to form models in your own mind of top people that you would like to be like sometime in the future.
When you talked about the levels of awareness and you talked about being on level one, where you don't know what you don't know, when you go from level one to two, it's a complete transformation because now you're aware that you can apply continuous learning to move up the ladders. I remember, like you said, that 80 to 90% of people are stuck on level one where they don't know what they don't know. But then once they sort of learn about how little they know in that area, they just start rapidly moving up the ladder. And you
Yes.
mentioned there's a level five beyond unconscious competence. You called it transference competence. Do you remember that?
Yes, that's
Which
right.
is the ability to bring people up from level one to level two and introduce these concepts. And that's where you're at. You're at the transference competence level because you brought so many people up from level one to level two, where now they know what they don't know and they know that they can move up and they can continue to learn until they get to that point where, they don't even know how much they know. They're so confident, which is when you're doing things automatically, right?
Well, one of the things I always say is that life is like a combination lock, but with more numbers. So that it's like a combination lock has three numbers. So life sometimes has a dozen numbers before you get a result that people will pay you for. And so you always have to be thinking, what are the steps? What are the necessary steps? And in the Bible, it says, seek and ye shall find, for all who seek findeth. If you say, I want to double my income, you have to have a target, a goal to aim at. Say, I want to double my income. This year, my income was this. Next year, I want my income to be that. And then you just go to work every day and you ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now helping me to be more financially successful, to get more and better financial results? And if it's not, stop doing it and start doing something that moves you towards your financial goal. Remember that 80% of people worry about money all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All they think about, they get up in the morning, they worry about money all day, they think about it at night, they talk about it at home and so on. And everything is we can't afford it. It costs too much. We want to do this and we want to do that, but we just can't afford it this week, this month, this year. And that's not for you. Your job is to decide this is how much I want to earn. This is the life I want to live. One of the things that I'm adamant about is goals, written goals. When you have written goals that are written in the present tense that you want to accomplish in the next week, month, year, years ahead, it's astonishing how much you achieve with written goals as opposed to goals in your fantasies and hopes and dreams.
When you are at the stage where you know what you know, and you've read Malcolm Gladwell's book where he talks about the 10,000 hour rule, where
Mm-hmm.
it takes about 10,000 hours to master something. So going from you know what you know to you don't know all that you know should take about 10,000 hours. How do you accelerate that? How do you speed that period up?
Well, that piece of research by Malcolm Gladwell called the 10,000 hour rule. You need 10,000 hours to master your craft. That has one glaring omission, and that is how much you have natural ability to do it, how much you enjoy it, how much you like the people that you work with, how much of your emotion is involved in achieving that goal. And if that's the case, you'll find you can be much more successful in 1/10 the time that Malcolm Gladwell predicts. It depends upon how much you love your work.
Also, Dad, I think one major thing that separates people from succeeding versus not succeeding is that they learn this information. They take these hours of, studying and connecting to things. And you can learn all the information in the world, but if you don't do something with it,
Yes.
right, you have to gain the knowledge and experience, and then you have to take action. And that's when you actually build the momentum to achieve things. Phasing too, because people will wait to take action until they think they have the perfect step to take, the right action. They know exactly what it is, and they'll spend so much time thinking about what the right thing to do is that they'll actually postpone and delay their progress. But if they just try something, even if it's at 80%, then they can do it and be like, all right, this part worked and this part didn't. And so now I'm going to try it again a little bit differently. And so,
what advice do you have for me who's thinking through 100 steps and not taking the first one?
Well, the challenge that everybody has is lack of self-confidence. So what you do is you think, well, what if it doesn't work? Or what if I make a mistake? Or what if I get sat back in terms of time and money? And so you start to become preoccupied with not succeeding. So the rule is get it half right and take action. Don't worry about doing it perfectly. The only way that you can learn is by making mistakes and asking, what did I learn from this? The critical thing in developing a skill is frequency of activity in that area. Whatever it is, you're so smart, you could learn 100 subjects, not just one. The average person uses less than 3% of their mental potential. So there's any skill that you need to learn, you can learn that skill to achieve any financial goal that you want.
What are the consequences of this, whether I do it or if I don't do it? And that sometimes brings a lot more clarity. Like, how actually important is this? Or is it I'm making a big deal out of it and it's not going to have a big impact on my life? And you're overthinking it when you could just...
Well, the rule is you only succeed by failing and by asking yourself, what did I do right? What would I do differently? Those are my two great questions. I've taught them to 2 million people. What did I do right after any call, any business activity? And number two, what would I do differently next time based on my experience?
It's one of the reasons why you're so successful, Dad, is because you don't and not in a bad way, I think in a really good way, is you just jump in. You don't care if you make mistakes because you know that you're going to learn so much faster by stumbling through obstacles than you are by sitting here and planning everything out in your head. And, those people end up thinking their lives away. You said to me, Dad, what do you say? Dumb doers beat smart thinkers every day. And that's not to say that doing things blindly is dumb, but it's saying that even if you don't have the competencies, if you're out there taking action, you're going to be vastly ahead of everybody else who's just sitting there thinking through everything. So
nothing happens until someone moves.
yes.
You only learn how to succeed by failing and learning from your temporary failures. So we say there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. So if your goal, start off with a goal to double your income in the next 12 months, okay? Then you come back to the present and say, what results will I have to get in order to deserve double what I'm earning today? And how can I get those results? And there's always an answer. It's the most amazing thing. Many people are frustrated because they're not earning enough, but they're not in a job where they can ever earn very much. So they want to stay at a comfortable job, the comfort zone, but they don't want to get better. People say what they want to say, stay the same, but get better. The qualities that are necessary, looking over the ages, are, first of all, courage. It takes tremendous courage to move out of the comfort zone. And so we find that leaders have courage. They are willing to take action with no guarantees of success. 80% of people always want to know, what's my guarantee? How can I be sure? What if it doesn't work? What if it costs time or money or effort or disappointment? So fear is a major obstacle to success throughout one's life. And the only way that you deal with fear is you do the thing you fear and the fear disappears. So you do the thing, the fear, and the death of fear is certain. Now, the second quality for leadership today is integrity. Just tell the truth. Be honest with other people and tell the truth, and be open. And I always practice what you've heard me say, open kimono, which means that if you have any questions at all about anything that affects you, just ask. I'll tell you. There's no secrets. It's really important. And then the third quality, I want to talk about a golden triangle, is the third quality is persistence. Is leaders just never quit. They just keep on keeping on. They try over and over. They slip and fall and lose money and fall back and so on, but they never quit. From experience, big three: courage, which is to take action, and integrity, which is the way you deal with other people, and then persistence. You just never quit.
So, Dad, as a leader, right? Because obviously you don't like lead by yourself into the darkness. You're leading people, you're leading teams, you're motivating people. Are there any qualities or ideas that you have that are important in terms of inspiring other people to act? As a leader, your goal, you are inspiring others or you're leading them to follow you. What can you say about that?
Well, one of the most important qualities of leaders is they're role models. Is people look up to them and want to be like them. And so you always ask this question: what kind of a company would my company be if everybody in it was just like me? And you set high standards for yourself. Nobody's going to set higher standards for you than you. So set high standards for yourself and say those magic words: I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Remember, fear is the greatest obstacle to success. And the way that you overcome fear is you just do the thing you fear repeatedly. And then what happens is you inspire other people to take action as well, and other people to speak up. And you encourage people to speak up and share their opinions and so on.
It makes me think, Dad, of like parenting, because obviously as a parent, you're a leader of a family. And I know that one thing that I have done with my kids, and I'm guessing for sure you too, David, have been doing this with your kids, is that when we make plans or when we talk about things that we want to do or things, our thoughts and feelings about dinner or a trip or how we're going to spend our time, we always recruit the kids into the conversation and treat them like they are part of the team, that their opinions matter. And so that it's not just, David and I being the dictators and saying, this is what we're doing, and you're going to come along and just, don't cry about it. But we really do like appreciate their thoughts and their opinions. And I know because Julia, who's 18, has even come back and said she really appreciates the fact that we always made them feel like they were important contributors to our family. And I
Yes.
imagine that, for me, I think that's probably very similar when you're leading groups of people, that people feel more invested if they actually feel like their contribution matters, if what they're offering has value, and not just to their colleagues, but to the leadership, right? Like as a leader, when you look at somebody and you say, wow, that's a great idea, or we should go with what you're saying, it's empowering for them to feel like they've made a great contribution.
Goals are the most important thing of all to be a leader. If you want to be a leader, you have to have a clear idea of where you are going and the steps that you're going to have to take to get there. So the greater clarity, it's one of my favorite words in strategic planning, greater clarity you have, the easier it is for you to take the right steps to achieve the right goals. And I say everybody should have the goal to double their income. But if you don't set it as a goal, it's not likely to happen. If you do set it as a goal and you write it down, you'll be amazed at all the ideas that just start to attract into your life to help you to increase your income. And then double it again, and you'll be astonished. It has nothing to do with luck. It has to do with clarity and focus and determination, persistence. Famous book, Think and Grow Rich, with the importance of a major definite purpose. One big goal, the achievement of which will enable you to achieve many more goals at the same time. And success all comes from deciding what that is, the number one goal, and writing it down, and then making a list of everything that you can think of to do it, and then start on the list. Start with
Well,
the number one, number two, number three, saying what one big regret do I have in life? And the answer is no regrets. I decided that regrets are the major cause of so much lifelong unhappiness. And so no regrets, only lessons. Here's the rule: is never become upset about something that you cannot change. and you cannot change a past event. It's over. So therefore, if something has happened, let it go. Imagine this is the big regret, the problem, the negative experience, the thing that makes you unhappy. And there it is. Hold on to it as tight as you can. Now, if you held on to that for an hour, what would happen to your hand? Well, it would start to get rigid. What happened if you held it for 2 hours or 2 days? It would get more and more rigid. Eventually, your arm wouldn't move at all. So how do you get rid of that situation, that regret that's causing you unhappiness? And the answer is let it go.
Let it go. Yeah.
It's one of the great philosophies of life is to learn what you can learn and then just let it go.
Let it go.
No
And Sarah, you made a comment about not having the words when you're an introvert. And I just want to say, if you don't have the words and you're trying to figure out what it is you want to say or do, come up with a picture, draw it, come up with an image that represents what you're thinking about, because sometimes imagery is easier than actual words, and it's still represents what you're wanting. So for those of you that struggle,
make a vision board. Create a
vision board. Just come up with an image. Even one thing I highly suggest is, like, whatever it is you want, find a picture of somebody doing that and then cut out your face and stick it on the picture so it looks like you're doing it. And then you don't have to describe it, right? A picture says 1,000 words, so you don't even need the right words. A baby
Brian,
step.
what one action are you going to take in the next week?
Well, I have contracts for 5 books. And the next week, I'm going to finish off book number 1, which is 378 pages, and then start with book number 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I get to 101 books by the end of next year.
Beautiful.
So
wow.
that's a major project of mine.
People in the chat who are watching this right now, I want you to say yes if you've ever considered writing a book. So just let us know if you have ever considered writing a book. And if you want to add the theme of the book, great. But I imagine a lot of you have a book inside of you that you're dying to write, and that maybe we can guide you or give you the baby step to start that big goal in your life.
That's a great idea.
How many of you have wanted to write a book? Yes, yes,
yes.
Okay, I'm seeing lots of yeses. Well, you know what? We are going to start encouraging you to do that. Maybe we'll offer a tip every week on the process, because there is something pretty amazing about writing your own book. As Dad, Brian, you have said, there's before you write a book and there's after you write a book. So we know it's a very transformative thing for you to write your own book. And if we can help you with that, or encourage you, or just push you out of the comfort zone to take that first step, I think that would be a really great thing for us to do. We'll get you to
great
let
idea,
go.
Christina.
Yeah.
Great idea.
So I'm going to keep harassing you about that particular thing every year, because I know how important it is to achieve that goal in your life.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you guys. And thank you to our listeners. Appreciate you tuning in to this week of the Brian Tracy Experience. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Excellent.